to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alright, this is usually the part of the meeting that we, if you're not on the agenda, give you an opportunity to say whatever you came to say. And we can't act on it, but we can take it under advisement and talk about it at the next meeting. So I do know that you have something to say.
Anybody else who wants to go before?
So is anybody else not on the agenda?
Just one quick thing. We're having an RDA meeting Friday out at Mid-American Science Center at 10 o'clock, and I'd like to extend the invitation to you all to come join it.
Friday?
Friday.
All right. Anybody else? It's up to you.
Porva and I have just a few things to plant seeds about, if nothing else. We've just enjoyed a full day with Leadership Southern Indiana in Scott County. So we've been to Hardy Lake and Downtown Square and Mid-America Science Park, so it's been nice.
You got to learn all about the Reno, bro.
We did, yes. First, I'll go ahead and let Porva talk about brownfields.
Yes. So we have a grant. It's a community-wide assessment grant. It's a due diligence grant where you can do, if anybody's interested in a property, want to do environmental assessments. So they can do phase 1 and phase 2. I did bring some fact sheets for you so you can have it. So it is
So you're saying that if someone bought a piece of property at a gas station or,
Yes.
or a car lot or something was on prior, you have grants or you have capability to get grants?
Yes, so with the gas stations, it's very interesting because to assess that gas station, you have to remove the tanks. So actually the gas tanks will be removed and from the property, which will be part of, generally it's not cleanup, it's assessment. So that is a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. We have been told there is a property in Lexington, Indiana. There's a Lucas Oil gas station. I don't think it is
The old Lexington Oil Company.
Lexington.
We've been kind of made aware, right across from the school.
Yeah.
We've been made aware of that and that it may need to be assessed.
Yes.
And like she said, normally it's just assessment money, but with gas stations, old tanks, in order to assess, they have to remove the tanks. So
Yes.
you could potentially use the funding
use it
to
for that because
get the
it's,
tanks out.
yeah.
And actually,
So-
would that kind of roll into some of the stuff the farmers have? I mean, some of the bigger farmers that possibly could have chemicals or something like that.
If anybody is interested in buying that property or have some use of it and you think it needs it, that will be great. That can be done. Also, if there is a building that is blighted and you need to demolish it and you need to do like asbestos assessment on it, that can also be done.
Okay.
So am I hearing this right? Like, I'll use a service station, for example, you would help them with some kind of grant money or something to
Yeah.
help them take those tanks out?
If they need it to be done, yes, they will do the, so phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, they just go around, look at the property, see what kind of contamination there might be. And phase 2, they will actually go take the samples of the soil and they will test it. And they will come up with a cleanup plan. Right now, we don't have a grant for cleanup, but Indiana Brownfield has a program called POSI. They can come and help them clean up those things, that site. So.
Okay.
Would we be looking for maybe a list of properties, like addresses and owners?
Yeah.
So I guess my question, because you say, well, you mentioned a place, but is that, if the landowner would be the person asking this, but you act like, was the landowner the one that talked to you about election, or is
No, how did we find out about that?
So Indiana Brownfield, I think, maintains a record, and they have some potential brownfield sites around the state. So we requested them because we were having some difficulties to locate these sites. So we just thought it would be a great initiative to ask them. So they gave us some information.
I didn't know there was a board for something like that.
There is, yeah, and they are very helpful, and very, very interested in helping our region.
Well, John's old enough, he knows where all those stations were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of them was built after I was born, probably. I don't
Well,
know.
the thing about it is, you know, back in the day, you know, you get your oil change, you just pour it
Yeah,
out back,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places like that, so.
Gas station, dry cleaners, any old buildings that are there that can be demolished and the debris can be removed, so it will be ready for the next owner.
Okay.
Sometimes the person buying is not responsible for the contamination, so this assessment gives them a certificate like, okay, you were not responsible, this was already there, so that nobody can come at them later in future to say, oh, you were responsible for it, so.
And we've been having trouble getting rid of this money. So we're really trying to push in our rural counties that we serve first. So that's why we need your help to try to get us those names and addresses of
Yes.
businesses. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go into our more populated areas to try to get it down. We're really trying to make this push and connection with the landowners to
Did you
try to
have
get
to
this.
do that at the strip mall on 56th, the interstate, where the Chevron used to be?
Oh goodness, probably.
Julian
Oh, yeah,
Standard
Julian's,
was there,
yeah,
and
sorry, yeah.
Chevron was there.
Mm-hmm,
Because I know that most of the time, what I see is most of the time when most of your, those two particular, they took the tanks out before the property was sold. So when they gave up their stuff, the tanks came out of the ground. So
yeah.
so that part was already done. So
I don't know about Cocaline, if they ever took those
Yeah, I
tanks
think
out.
they did.
Did they? I couldn't remember. But
That's-
places like that, yeah.
okay. But you're saying even though they took the tanks out, if it was a previous gas station or something
that
like
can be
that, they
done,
could still
yes.
have some mediation.
Right.
Yeah, the study has a short shelf period. It expires, so it is good if it's a year further dealing these properties, so to have that ready.
Yeah, that's good. So that's it on the brownfield. She was also going to, Apoorva sent an email about the community crossings.
Yeah,
for
so
MnDOT.
I do asset management planning for our rural communities. Scott County is on our list for yearly update of that asset management plan. This is very important to apply for community crossing matching grant. So this needs to be submitted. I was told that it will be done in-house, and I have extended my help in case you all need, and
Okay.
I am here to help you and assist you with that. The deadline is 1st of December. If we don't submit one by December 1st, we won't be able to apply for that grant next year.
Well, I think last year we didn't because I don't think we'd spent the money that we had. Is that correct?
Oh, no, tell me.
On the
again,
community
which
crossing.
Community crossing grants,
You
the
have to
road
spend all,
improvements.
yeah, you have to spend all your money
Oh, I
before
see.
you can apply for the next one, so it has to close out. But I didn't, I
But-
think last year.
Did they do annual?
Yeah, I think they do it
Applications?
twice.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
But the key now is to get our asset management in order.
Yes,
We've got-
that's a
we've
precursor,
basically got
prerequisite,
three
basically.
and a half weeks to get that done.
So is this, are you talking about the commitment and the match money and that part of this?
We're just talking about getting the asset management, is it plan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
asset
together
management plan.
before
It
December
just-
1st.
In this, we just go out and we rate the roads, and this information is sent to in a portal, and it has it's until December 1st, so you still have over a month.
So I want to make sure I'm right here. So we've got to have our part done by November 1st. Is that right?
December 1st.
December 1st. You
December
don't
1st.
have to do anything unless you're doing it in-house, so then you have
Okay.
until December 1st.
We've got, so, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess my question to that is that if we don't get it done by December 1st and you're still doing it for a group of people, can we still piggyback off
So-
of yours?
So that portal will close. So they will not accept any more asset plans after that. So that is the important deadline.
And
So
that's a
also-
prerequisite before you can apply for community crossings.
Also,
so.
I know in the past, we've done it only for the roads, but is this still the same portal for the bridges?
No, this is not.
So there's a different portal
Different
for the
one
bridge?
for the bridge, yeah.
Okay.
But I can confirm, I'm gonna go and I will confirm that with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to know what that deadline is, because we may have some
Yeah.
things we might be able to use that for too.
You can apply for both.
So in my understanding, we just do roads.
Yeah, I don't know that we assist with,
Bridges.
I don't think we assist with
Okay.
bridges.
Okay.
At least we don't as of right now,
Yeah.
so.
All right.
Are you good with
Yeah.
that? Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about is it's my understanding you contracted with Christopher Burke to do your multi-hazard mitigation plan, is that right? A
Yes.
couple
Is that right?
meetings ago, a meeting or two ago?
Hang on,
Yes, Tammy,
what's
is
the-
that right?
Okay.
What's the company?
I think it's
Christopher
Christopher B.
Bird,
Burke,
not-
B-U-R-K.
Is it Burke or
I
Bird?
think it's-
Okay, regardless. We have been a part of helping pull people together prior to this year in your 5-year multi-hazard mitigation plans that you've been doing up to this point. And then,
On the 7th.
yeah, Christopher B. Burke Engineering provides services to update your multi-hazard mitigation plan for Scott County. It's something that needs to be done every 5 years. Why we are talking about it is this up to until now had been done through the Polis Center at Purdue. It's my understanding Christopher Burke was talking about, it's still the same grant, you're just having them do the multi-hazard mitigation plan. Why we are at the table is in the past, we've helped pull the people together in the community for those meetings. And you're also able to use our time as your in-kind match. We don't actually charge you for that upfront work. So, please know we're here, and I would ask that you, if you want to connect us with them, we would love to talk to them so we can make sure that the people you need to be at the table are. To take that a step further, we have been very successful at River Hills in getting some safe room grants from FEMA in our region.
Now, what
this-
kind of grant again?
It's a safe room. So
Safe
it's a
room, okay.
room that your school district may build as a safe space for tornado, where they would go for a tornado warning. It also allows them to expand capacity for the school and create additional classroom space. So it's kind of a win-win. Salem is now, they have an elementary school safe room, and we're in the middle of construction for the middle and high schools over there building those safe rooms. And we have an application going in for Rock Creek this year. Why I'm mentioning it is because Scott too, we've kind of shared this with them, and they're interested. They've probably not even talked about it at a board meeting, but we've had a conversation with them. Hey, if you attend these multi-hazard mitigation planning meetings and you're present at the table, that makes you eligible to apply for this FEMA funding for safe rooms. They have to be at the table and involved in the planning for them to be eligible. So I've made Casey Brewster aware of that. He's hoping to be invited, and I would hope that someone from Scott One would also attend. And please pull us in, because like I said, you can use our services, as in-kind match for that grant. To the best of my knowledge, I'm sure it's the same grant that Christopher Burke is working on. So I don't know if it takes you connecting us with your emergency person. We'll be happy to meet with him, but it's very important that your schools are there.
You need us to ask you to do that, is it what?
No,
Yeah.
we don't need any action on it. We just want to make you aware that we are here. You can use our services as in kind on that grant. And we also want to make sure that the schools are invited and participate, because that will make them eligible for funding that we know at least one of the districts may be interested in.
Okay.
And without them being involved, they will not be eligible to apply for that funding.
And is my understanding correct on that safe room space, that it can be utilized when it's not being needed for a safe room for other activities, correct?
Absolutely,
It's not
it
dead space
increases,
until
no,
there's
it
an
increases,
emergency,
I
right?
believe, and I don't remember for sure, it's been a decade since I worked on it, but I worked on the Brady Shrum Elementary School safe room, and I think theirs was gonna serve as an auditorium, classroom space, as well as their safe room space.
So it's not dead space, it can be used for another
It's not dead
function.
space, it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
just you, no, the win is you can use it for classroom space. It just has to be built to a certain specification to withstand so many miles per hour wind and things of that
How
nature.
big of a space are we talking?
I cannot tell you that.
Well, if you're talking about auditorium, I mean, you're
Well,
probably.
school auditorium.
I know, but I
Okay,
mean-
and I'm not sure, I do not remember the square footage of that space. But you could punch in, you could Google Salem Community
will.
Schools safe rooms, and it'll pop right up, I promise you, some articles about it.
Okay.
So,
I might be interested.
and again, Scott 1, or Scott 2 has not talked about this at a board meeting or anything. I just know we've talked to Casey, and they could be interested in it, and we don't want them to miss out on an opportunity that they may be interested in, so.
Okay.
So we don't need to vote to.
Nope, you don't need to do anything. All I would ask is that you reach out to Christopher Burke and let them know we're here, and we'll help bring whomever they need to be at the table. We can help do that.
Okay.
That's all we would ask, so, nope, no motion needed.
All right.
Do you all have any questions for us? Okay,
No.
all right.
You just gave me more questions.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Make a motion to have you do that. Reach out to them.
I mean, I don't mind to reach out to them if I have your permission, but.
You do.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, mine anyway.
That's what we were getting at.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's what we were getting at. is-
Okay, yeah, I don't
we
mind to
wanted-
reach out if I'm given the contact information.
So
Or
I'll just make note of that.
We're just trying to
Yep,
find out what we got to do.
yeah, we just wanna help and make sure the right people are at the table, so.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Randy, I'll make note of that in a minute, so
Okay,
it's good.
thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I want to say something informally, can I?
Yes, you can. Who we talking to?
This is my second time up here in 30 years. I hope I'm not wearing my welcome out. I carried mail down to Underwood,
Okay.
and I've been retired. My health got bad, had to move up here. And I got a little problem. I moved up on Radio Tire. My problem was speed, especially since they stopped 31.
Yeah.
And they blocked off down Underwood Road. I mean, 31, they blocked it off
Yeah, there's a
down
bridge.
Underwood County Line Road.
That should open back
But
up.
people like that dumb, they come down Radio Tire and around, and the traffic is tremendous. And it was bad before. And I carried mail up here when I first started. You could get out of the sight of the house. And before I retired, you couldn't. So the population's increased. And I'm talking to the lady over at the sheriff's office, and they said it was, speed limit was 55 miles an hour on the county roads. Well, that was all right back then. Today, it should be different. I've got grandchildren that live out there, and I lost a dog out on the road, which is part of my fault. But the whole point is that I'm coming down Underwood Road and they got 30-mile speed limit signs down through there. So I got up to the high sheriff, Jerry Goodwin, and talked to him about this. And the lady told me it cost $6,000 to study, to drop get the speed limit changed, but Jerry Goodwin said it didn't. And y'all got some of the roads on, and they said Underwood Road is just suggested.
It's not true.
Huh?
It's not true. I said it at our last meeting, back in 2005, 2007. The commissioners at the time picked 6 different roads in the county and did a speed study and changed those roads to 35 miles, or 30 or 35. And they are legally that speed limit, and Underwood Road is one of those. Radio Tower Road is not one of those.
Well, that's what I want. That's why I'm here. I'd like to get
So what,
ready.
I'm gonna ask you a question. I mean, what's your address? Cause there is,
537 East
530.
Radio Tire.
okay. So are you before,
Huh?
Underwood Road or after Underwood Road?
I'm before, I'm between 31 Underwood Road.
Okay.
I'm across from Bixler.
Okay.
You know where Bixler lives?
I know exactly where you're at.
Is John your son? Is John your son?
Huh?
Is John your son?
Do I claim him?
Yeah, okay, that's why I thought you was, I was just trying to.
He's more sophisticated than I am. I'm just kind of blue collar fellow.
Okay.
He's got.
I know who you are now.
He's got an
Okay.
education. My money, and my son went to Purdue. So,
Okay,
but he might be a little outspoken
a
too.
little bit, yeah.
But he lives next to me.
I know where you're at,
And
okay.
I had to come up here once before because I bought a pigeon roost from Raymond Hardy's
Yeah,
sister-in-law, and we had a little problem with a dead tree. So this is my second trip up. Now, I just think that I'd like to get that street down because it just, if everybody would abide by the law, it'd be all right, but they don't do that.
No.
And if they got a speed limit sign, a whole lot of people will come and abide by it. And now when they had the radio, when they had the railroad there, they had a stop sign. But now we got signals, and I'm all really glad of it. But they don't slow down anymore.
the railroad did tell us we could put a sign
And I want
back
to make
up
y'all
there.
aware. When I bought the farm at Pigeon Roost, I wanted to put a water line across that railroad track. They want me to put a $1 million bond. Well, Mr. Railroad is selling the Brooklyn Bridge because later on there was a lawsuit, class action lawsuit. And come to find out, they don't own the ground under the railroad track. They only own the surface rights. Now, in certain cases, way back when, they own the underground rights. But in my case, they're on Pigeon Ridge, they don't own the underground rights, and they was trying to kind of charge for something that he owned. And so if y'all are trying to pay, they're trying to charge you anywhere in this county, they need to prove that they own the ground that they're trying to charge, and they want to charge so much a year. So,
But your big concern right now is the speed limit,
So-
is that correct? Speed limit is your concern tonight?
well, that's one of the speed problems I've got.
Okay.
The other problem is another speed problem. And that's not going too fast, it's going too slow.
Okay,
It's my internet. I can't hear. So they will furnish me a thing where I can read on the telephone. So I went to get it, and they come out there, and they couldn't put it in because the speed's too slow.
Who you got your service with?
Pioneer or whoever the landline is,
Frontier?
Oh,
Frontier, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're not gonna do nothing. They had to have a lawsuit out in California. They claimed they was having so much speed and they didn't have it. They just not gonna do this. And I've talked to some of the others, and they've got high-speed internet into my street, 31 and Radio Tower, but they won't string a wire down through there, you know. And I'm on dialysis, and I have to go over here, and I come down Lake Road, and coming down Lake Road, I see them out there stringing. So I stopped asking what they's doing. Oh, we're putting in this high speed. So, seems like I live on the wrong side of the railroad track. So, they're getting it all over there, but we ain't got nothing over on my side of the road. So, I wanna squeak a little bit so I can get my,
Let me reach out to some people.
which one of y'all's my commissioner?
I'm,
You are?
yes.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Citizen Band and see.
Uh-huh.
I'll reach out to Citizen Band and see, what kind of speed they can get you in your area. Because, Frontier, you know, they actually came down 350, or actually 203, and they ran to a certain spot and stopped. And then they said, oh, we'll run hardwire from there. Well, they never, all the customers down through there couldn't get it. So let me check with Citizen Band, see what kind of service they could provide you. Can you, write me your phone number there so I can reach out to you? I don't want everybody to know what your number is.
Anyway, Anyway, what's the name of the TV and all that? They were doing a survey out there, and I had to come up.
Spectrum, yeah.
He's an IT specialist, come out of Florida. Now they can look everything over, and that's why I know that, I can't even call the name of it. You know who I'm talking about? One's got TV and internet.
Spectrum.
Huh?
Spectrum.
Spectrum. And
Yeah.
he had it on the side of his car, and he come out there and looked at it. And I know I've got Spectrum at the end of the street.
Okay. As far as the speed, let us look at that and see what we can do there too, because we're looking at some roads that, we're possibly going to change some speed limits on, so. And that actually.
Well, I'd just be satisfied if you suggested that they,
Well, we can't do that. The prosecutor would probably cringe.
well, I don't think that you should charge you, $6,000
Well,
to change the speed limit.
we might be able to do something without spending that kind of money, depending on, some homes out there, so. Let us look at it and we'll get back with you. All right?
Well, since you know who my son is, I'll tell you who I am. I'm a direct descendant of Edward Boot, Douglas' brother.
No kidding. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, so we got it determined when we decide to do something. Thank you all.
All right.
Nice
Appreciate
meeting
your
you.
Nice
time.
meeting
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Sorry it's late getting up here.
Oh, you're good, you're good. All right, anybody else have anything that's not on the agenda? All right, cease, comprehensive plan.
Alright. Well, Tammy is way more, like, I don't know, put together, I guess. So I made copies, but she said she had already put the copy of the comprehensive community plan in your packets. I've got some additional things for you all too, but I'll get there. A year and a half ago, we lost the CEAS coordinator that had been in this position for 13 years. So around the same time, ICJI had some changes in leadership as well. And so we found out this year, I was appointed in May of this year for CEAS. So as you see, my name's not on the front of this comprehensive community plan. So through that process, we found out that the way that we've been awarding our grant funds is not in line with state statute. So what was happening historically was we have to submit these in March, and then they're approved by the state either in April or May, depending on how slow they are. And then they come to the county commissioners for approval. So the problem was that the funds were actually dispersed in February. So we are changing that policy. I just wanted to let you all know we're changing our grants policy. So our grant cycle will actually run differently. That grants committee meets this week on Friday. And so we'll be able to give you the exact timeline of what that's going to look like. So this year, the funds were dispersed in February, but our comprehensive community plan wasn't actually approved until June or July because the state had some more changes. So this has been approved by the state, but it also needs a vote of approval from the county commissioners. So these funds are the ones that were dispersed in February. And then next year, we will make it so that the grant cycle isn't until after the state and the county commissioners have approved the comprehensive community plan. So that's our plan moving forward to correct the mistake that was made.
So you're saying that in the past, funds were distributed in February
Yes,
and they weren't approved until later in the year?
yes.
Okay.
So we didn't know that that was an issue because the people at ICGI had said that the comprehensive community plan that was approved the year before is what we were dispersing those grant funds off of. But when they had a change of leadership at the state level, they've decided that the interpretation is different. And so we had an approved comprehensive community plan in February, but that was last year's plan.
So you're saying this calendar year was different?
Yeah, and calendar years and fiscal years and all of that fun stuff. So our comprehensive community plan runs, basically, we have to submit it in March, so it runs like April 1st
through March 31st of the following year. But our grant cycle has always run from February to December 31st.
Okay, so you're saying that, you're gonna meet next week or in this month or something, and you're going to determine what
Yes.
you're gonna give out?
So we are going, well, we've already given out the funds. So what we are adjusting is we're
Next year.
changing our policy for next year so that it is in line with state statute. So that way our comprehensive community plan has been approved by the state, it's been approved by the county commissioners, and then we would disperse grant
So the
funding.
funds aren't gonna be distributed until after, say, April or?
Correct. We're looking at probably a July 1, is whenever we're looking at.
So the only thing that's really changing is the distribution of the money.
Yes,
The
so
money.
actually the goals for this comprehensive community plan are not different than the goals from last year. Now, next year, our comprehensive community plan will probably have some changes.
Okay.
But these funds were dispersed in February, not in line with state statute, so I'm begging your forgiveness. And letting you know the steps that we have taken to mitigate that, you know, and ICJI has approved our plan to correct that for the future.
Okay.
I also wanted to let you know that, one of our comprehensive community plan goals is to reduce the overdose fatality rate in the county. So to that end, we are an NCARES ECHO grant recipient. And this year so that grant cycle started September 1st. It's always fun when they don't align. We are starting an overdose fatality review board. So it operates similar if you're familiar with the child fatality review boards. So we will review the fatalities, identify any trends that we're seeing, and then make recommendations for programs that might be able to reduce that overdose fatality rate.
Who's on the
So-
board? Who's on the board?
I have a list. I'm happy to provide it to you all. I don't have it ahead
Okay.
in front of me.
The local people?
They're all local people. We do have Caitlin Short. So this is just infographics from the Indiana Department of Health about suicide and overdose fatality review boards. So the way that our grant cycle is written, it is written for an overdose fatality review, but most counties are doing suicide as part of that because sometimes it's difficult
Connected.
it's difficult to determine, especially if someone dies intentionally from.
I mean, do you have people on the boards that have had this happen to their family, somebody overdose or suicide, or, I'm just curious, I mean, they would seem like they would have a special insight.
I think that's a really good idea. What we are looking at, so the Bureau of Justice Assistance has a practitioner's handbook, and it has a dream team list of who you want on these boards. And so that's what we've been following, but I do think that it's a good idea to have someone who is a loved one, like a survivor of a loved one that has passed away from overdose.
So how are you getting your information?
So there's state statute that allows for these boards, which allows for sharing of information. So the State Department of Health will get us information, or our local health department will get us information like toxicology reports, they can pull inspect reports if you're familiar with those, to determine, like where medications are coming from and what substances were in a person's system. So we can kind of have a better idea of what substances we're looking at. Some of the information is going to come from that information sharing. So we have representatives from EMS, we have representatives from local
So you can get more information than
Yeah.
county commissioners.
Well, absolutely, yes. And then we also have our sheriff's department, local law enforcement. So we have different people from all of those different sectors represented. So there will be a report that we will make every month whenever we do these reviews. And that report will show what trends we're seeing, and eventually we'll get to the point of being able to make recommendations.
So you're pretty much saying that the state, I guess the state health department or whoever is allowing your organization to have information,
Yes.
kind of HIPAA related
Yes.
information that other people aren't privy to.
Right, that information is private and it's allowed to be shared per state statute. with the group of people. Those meetings are not public. None of the information that is shared would be public, and no private health information is shared in those reports. So what we share is, of the 14, overdose fatalities that we saw in 2021, 12 of those were fentanyl related. And so, for example, we might say we need some kind of education program about fentanyl. I know this year we've seen an influx in counterfeit medications that are being sold as something else, but it's really fentanyl. We've experienced some overdose fatalities this year as a result of that.
Okay. That's good. Good.
All right. So,
You don't need anything from us then?
No, I just need approval of the comprehensive community plan.
Okay, I mean,
So I'll entertain a motion to approve their 2022 comprehensive plan.
I'll make that motion. Approve.
John makes the motion to approve CESA's comprehensive plan. Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. So.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
I'll give you those as well.
All right, Jeffrey Street, Ritchie Edition, Mr. Gardner. Well, I guess maybe it's Mr. G.
Like to invite Mr. Mark Gardner up here.
Thank you.
How you doing, Mark?
Good, how are you?
Better than I should do.
Yeah, better than I deserve. How can I help you?
Well, it appears, well, I guess I should start off, there's questions on whether or not we do actually own it. We have, Tammy's got some information that it never was actually approved.
And I've stopped at 2004. I didn't get any further than that. So 2004 to current, I haven't looked at as far as Jeffrey Street, but there was an entry in the commissioner's minute book, because I just started, once it's got on the agenda, just kind of, this afternoon, just right before the meeting, kind of picking around on it. The last entry that we have was from, that I found, now that's not the last entry per se, it's just the last one I've noted, December the 6th, 2004. It was regarding Mr. Grover Stacy questioning county roads. It said Grover Stacy citizen asked why the board adopted Prawl Lane into the county road system when he had to follow rules to get the Miller addition accepted. Stacy added in his opinion Prawl Lane is only a one-lane road with 2 houses and no ditches. Stacy then asked why Hilltop Lane on Cutshaw Road was accepted and noted he wants Jeffrey Street accepted into the county road system. Staff informed Stacy he would have Bill Reed, highway engineer, go out and look at the road, and if the road is up to county standards, a $2,000 bond could be posted, and the 2-year process could be started for adoption into the county road process. So that's the last thing. I don't know what exists beyond that, because I don't know what happened, because I just got to 2004. So that's the last thing.
Okay.
Found last dated thing.
We've talked about this before, you said we can legally take that road in.
It's my understanding that once the county commissioners or the city council or whatever municipality we're in accepts the plat and signs it, that makes those roads county roads. Now, whether they're improved or not, the right-of-way is still there. Obviously, if there's, I'm
That's
sorry?
not correct. So the specific lawsuit in this case, which was regarding the Ritchie subdivision, was about that exact question. And I think that, and I'm not saying it could not be done post acceptance of the plat, but the question in the 1985 lawsuit was basically, does acceptance of the plat by itself necessitate acceptance of the roadways? And the answer in that case was no.
Well, I guess everybody has an opinion, and
So-
the way I learned it, once the plat is accepted, that county road right-of-way belongs to the county.
There's a secondary process where after the owner would have to also come back and petition the commissioners to accept the roadway, the right-of-way as well. I mean, this is a 1991 letter from Bob Houston dealing with the same issue. Not necessarily, I don't know if we are does this run perpendicular to Melody Lane? Because part of the problem is, it seems like the Ritchie subdivision was kind of piecemeal accepted. So Melody,
runs east and west.
but
I wanna
there's
say
like
there's a
4
Lori.
roads,
Is there a Lori?
Melody,
on
Lori, Easy.
They're all north
Easy
and
and
south.
Jeffrey runs north and
So
south.
there are like 4 roads that were accepted at different times throughout the commissioner's, existence from
So
like.
they're not all on the original plat of the Ritchie edition.
No, I'm sure they are. Yeah, but again, there was a secondary step where somebody came to a commissioner's meeting, petitioned them to accept the roadway. That's, effectively, that's what we're waiting on, I guess.
Well, but no one owns, is there,
Everybody's passed away.
yeah, the people that,
Well, so then
Developed
now we're
it
back
now.
to the secondary issue of kind of constructive acceptance. Has the county maintained the Jeffrey Street roadway at any point?
No. Well, I've never seen one.
Is that part of the addition developed?
Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Jeffrey is developed, yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that we couldn't accept it. All I'm saying is, I don't believe that we have.
So, to accept it, what are we gonna do at this point? Since
I think you need some form of a petition similar to the last subdivision that we did accept, which was basically kind of now that one was maybe a little different, I think, because I don't know that they had a plat exactly the same that was ever accepted. I'm not sure. What was the,
The-
talking about Stony
typically-
Brook,
yes,
Stony Brook,
the owners actually owned
they
out.
paved it.
Yeah,
And then they waived the 2-year wait period and the bond requirement
yeah.
on that
So
one.
you could do something
You
similar here.
could fast track it.
when she was alive.
Yeah, on this.
Yeah, Morgan, yeah.
It's
It's Morgan.
for that.
This
And
developer's gone.
This developer's gone.
There are county road procedures, for development and the,
Well,
I mean-
I don't think you're ever gonna be able to get the landowners or
To-
anybody
to
who
come
owns
up
it
with
to
that,
bring it up
right.
to spec. I think part of the question, even back in 1991, was if at some point in the past, somebody who was the owner had brought the road up to spec under the standards at the time, that was basically an acknowledgement of that owner's intent to dedicate it. And you couple that with the kind of reliance on the idea that the commissioners would accept it. Basically, you could argue that we could do that at this point. But, again, I just want to be clear that I don't see anything that says that we have owned this road for the last 60 years. And not the road, the right of way. So,
So at this point, we could just make a motion that we would take this road in and accept it the way it is.
you could, is there anybody that has any, you said everybody's dead, has there been any, like estates of death?
Where Ritchie would be the last one, and I guess he's got a couple of daughters, I suppose.
June, his wife, she's still
Mhm.
alive.
June is still alive.
They showed up
Let's
to
talk to
meetings from I think we looked from 1970 up to like 1993, they were coming to meetings and asking that individual roads be accepted. I guess my point is, if all of the roads were accepted initially, just by acceptance of the plat, why would they have needed to do that?
And then again, what short time we were able to look, we might have half an hour or something. I got to 2004, but that's as far, so I haven't
So if
been
something's
past that.
happened since
so I
2004
don't-
and they've accepted it, that might be true.
So I feel
So
like
it
I need to
could-
look
It could be,
farther.
but we just don't, we haven't looked to see.
I didn't get
You
past
just studied.
2004, a half an hour before the meeting, so that's about the time limit I had.
Well, let's, I guess, look and see if there's anything in the minutes that, would have leaned that way, and then, I know one of those, I think it's Jeffrey, I think, is that the school bus won't even go down it.
Right.
So the kids have to walk
That's
all the
where you're
way
kind
out.
of running into the practical problem of a road is not maintained privately, it's not going to be. it's never gonna meet that 2-year requirement.
Correct.
Nobody's gonna make the payment, so,
Correct. It's not.
you know.
Well, we also, and the same thing we did with one of the other roads we took in, is that we have emergency vehicles running on that road that are county vehicle, and we tear up a $200,000 ambulance. I mean, trying to get to somebody's house or a police car, $38,000 police car, I just don't think that's wise, or a $500,000 fire truck, so I,
I mean, I think traditionally you'd wanna kind of give notice, hold kind of a public hearing, allow everyone to show up, and make their case for or against, and then you can make your determination
When
on
you say everyone, who's everyone?
the abutting landowners. So,
Okay. The people who live on the street,
be directly,
they could come in and request it.
I mean, at this point, that might be the best that you have,
Is that not true for other roads too, though?
I think so.
I mean, like,
Unless-
Minix Drive's been complaining for years. Keyway has. I'm asking the question, are we gonna have more?
we could always.
I mean, it looks to me like, well, I know we're gonna have 2 more come in.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
I'm not telling you that you would have to accept every single road. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the problem with
But
the
we
idea
can.
that the plat
We
that
can
you
though.
must maintain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it was rejected specifically by the judge in that case, but, I mean,
I do know, because I've posed this question to other commissioners in other counties, and they just kind of shrug their shoulders and go, we take it. We take it because we need to for the taxpayers. So, you know, even if and we've kind of cleared this up with some new processes that we have here that makes a developer pay the bond up front for the road. Even if he leaves, the bond money will still be there to complete the road. But in the past, and all these subdivisions we're talking about in the past weren't done that way. The people built subdivisions, took their money and ran. And I'm not saying, I shouldn't say it like that.
There's been
They didn't follow
For
everything to the
years
letter.
to do the
It's
same
been a
thing.
process of learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but as I said, other commissioners in other counties just throw their hands up and go, we take it, and then from there on, we maintain it. So,
But now,
is that an easy pill to swallow? Probably not, but
I don't think we can, just to clarify what John asked, I don't think we can take in every road, because there's certain ways everything is laid out, like Keyway. Keyway's totally different laid out, isn't it, than what
Which one's Keyway?
Keyway's the
the
gravel.
one cut shaw.
The gravel.
It's the one
cut shop.
that Indiana Land came to the center
Yeah,
lane.
That's not a subdivision.
Yeah,
It's not platted correctly.
Yeah, that's a conglomeration of meets and bounds legal descriptions put together with everybody dedicating a 6-foot easement or something like that, and 10 people together make a 60-foot easement. So that is not, and by definition, has never been a subdivision.
right.
The Ritchie addition, on the other hand, if they didn't plat, if Easy Street or Jeffrey Street or whatever we're talking about wasn't platted on that subdivision plat, and it is, does that not mean that that was intent to be a roadway?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that was,
And you're right, Randy. I mean,
I mean, we just got
When
to be
they went in
careful
there-
of
when
saying
they
we
went
can
in
do
there
that to every
the
street.
difference is the roadway in a subdivision, platted subdivision, the roadway is cut out. No, you know, like I said, you own easement, but in some of these other places that weren't platted correctly, the landowner owns to the center of the road, whatever gravel road or whatever road is there.
but
They
not in
own-
not in a platted addition.
That's correct. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And some of those, like
And that's the difference
Keyway goes to the center of the road, so no one, the road isn't separate from the rest of the land.
That's right. That's
So-
like where you live. You own to the section line, which is someplace in the driving surface. But the county has right of way that they recognize, whether they pay for it, whether it's monumented or documented, they have it by prescriptive easement. And I can't imagine that anybody would make a statement that Jeffrey Street was not intended to be a roadway. It's on the plat from,
Prescriptive easement would be basically like an adverse possession situation. It wasn't, you're saying it's by consent and also by non-consent.
what's by use. And I think that most property owners would rather have a roadway in front of their house.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm talking about how to acknowledge and give everybody the opportunity to say yes or no at this point. And they may very well, every one of them may say yes, I don't know. But the other thing is, I think the argument that the county has to take in every single right-of-way just because they accept the plat, I don't think that the case law says that.
No, I'm not saying that they have to take it in, I'm saying that it's there available for them if they want it. Otherwise, why would you plat an addition?
I agree with that.
Okay,
My-
so what,
I'm sorry.
what do you wanna do? I mean, it's obvious we can't take it in tonight, we need to advertise
I
it.
think we probably need to put out something in the paper or something that we're going to do this to get people to come in.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, I think so, that's trouble. Thinking about what
Mark,
to say.
refresh my memory on the zoning ordinance. It seems like you're talking about the developments that are just easements that were granted in order to be able to go around a 40-acre farm that was subdivided into, 15 or 20 lots with some cul-de-sacs and whatnot. Did the county zoning ordinance that was adopted back in, I want to say 4 or 5, somewhere in that, kind of try to offset some of those type of developments to where there were real formally platted subdivisions that were brought and accepted and recognized? Wasn't there some, that was
There
a
was
lot of
in-
reason for that ordinance?
There was in particular 2 or 3 developers that were from out of county. And they came in and bought the widow's farm, took all the information, took all the resources off of it, platted it into what was acceptable within 200 feet wide and a hell of a ways back there if that's what they wanted to do. And if they had anything that didn't have road frontage, they chipped in and said, oh, we're all gonna go together and make this a 60-foot road. You give 10 feet, we'll give 10 feet, and that's fine. The developer puts gravel on it and then he takes his money and runs. And when the school bus won't go back there, the people call you and say, hey, our road's not passable. And your answer is, it's not a road.
Yeah.
And so, learning from that, we've gone forward and stiffened our requirements a little bit, and will no longer be taken advantage of that way, but what's done is done. That stopped, and if they platted those additions, it'd been a different thing. Just like Lee and Mary Ellen Morgan, they platted that, they put the road in. And it's, now we know that you put the road in and maintain it for 2 years, and if you built a spec and we like it, then we'll take it off your hands. I'm kind of thinking we're comparing cats and dogs, or apples and oranges.
Okay.
Because I know they even shut down the addressing too, because unless it was a county road, they only allowed you 2 addresses off any private easement too at that point, because that kind of stopped these farms from being broken up and having 15 addresses
And
off of one.
that's also part of what we learned that got us to where we are now, that we don't allow 10 houses on an easement.
Okay. For this particular addition or this road and this subdivision, I think we need to do some more investigating and find out, if there is something in the minutes that somebody did it several years ago, then maybe we can not have to do too much on our own here. But we also need to have a public meeting so that our public hearings at our next meeting or something where somebody can voice their opinion one way or the other.
Now, just for clarification. Sorry. Lori Lane, slab, Lori Lane has already been accepted, and also
Melody. I think both the roads that come off,
Melody has one.
both of them come off of Slab Road have been taken in. And Melody.
And Melody goes here.
I think we saw Easy was taken as well.
And also Easy. So we've had 3 of those streets has already been straightened in, and Jeffrey's the only street we have not taken in.
Okay.
And I mean, one thing is, like, if there's a record, you know, from the state that shows that it is a county road, and we have a printout of that, I mean, again, we're just trying to build a record of when and if this became, or is going to be a county road.
Okay.
So, and I think maybe one of the reasons why, Zach just mentioned that is on Kevin's paperwork, it showed up this year. Now, I don't know how long this has been showing up, or if it's just showed up this year, but it's showing up that we do own Jeffrey Street already.
Well, I know when Jill was still here, you and Jill were figuring out what streets and what lanes and what other things were either county or not county. So maybe that's something that popped up in some research.
Yeah,
So,
But I
and
think,
again, like I said, I just got to 2004, so I don't know what it's.
it might be a situation where there's minutes that says it is, and you can easily, you know, take it from there, or,
I mean, we've not ever done any work to it. So I think at this point, maybe we should just move on the premise that it hasn't been done,
we can do that.
and just go ahead and move to get people in here to, that has what, property abutting it, and see if anybody has a problem with it. And
Okay, I'm good with that, cause I don't think anybody should, anybody that's paying tax dollars should have to have their kids walk to the, you know, to the end of the road to, and I'm not talking a short road, I'm talking a pretty long road to get on a school bus, so.
And just so everybody knows, I talked to Kevin, and we do have it in our budget to do that small section
What do you mean
this
do it?
year.
What do you mean do it?
To be able to go in there and fix that road up, so.
Gravel,
Yeah.
gravel and grade it?
Probably gravel and probably the same thing he just did out in Lexington, not necessarily blacktop, but to put somewhat of a surface on there, of a chip seal surface. Which is, honestly, it's 100% better than where it's at right now.
All right, well, I guess, we'll advertise it for whether it's our next meeting, 2 weeks, so that, gives people opportunity to come in and
Yeah.
voice their opinion one way or the
I think
other.
it'll be the November 2nd one, because I don't have 10 days to get that in the paper.
So it won't be the next one, it'll be
So it'll be
November
November
2nd.
2nd.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. You bet.
All right, well, we were moving along pretty quick.
Thank you, Mark.
Come on up.
Fix yourself with that short meeting.
Brought ammunition. Thanks for looking at it, Lexington, too. I guess if I'd have thought that some regional sewer up there, so.
I saw that trailer. Now, I guess, well, I know, but the one up on top's already hooked up. It's
The one
already
by
got a
the barn?
septic, yeah, it's got a septic riser there, a septic tank riser. So the one down below, if that's where they're putting it, they'll have to put a tank in, cause see out there, all they do is pump, you know, a fluid, you know.
It's
pump
gray
sewer.
water.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if he got a permit to put 2 trailers on, I think there's 2 different lots there, but even if he did,
And I
he would
don't
have to put
know,
a.
I mean, that'd be Marty that gives the permit to do the trailer in, you know, like I said.
Yeah, that's, and I know regional sewer is not like city Scottsburg or city Austin sewer.
Yeah.
It goes to a septic tank anyway, and then gray water goes to the treatment plant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to,
And like I said, Joe probably knows something about it, you know, Gibson, and then, but Marty would be the one to give him the permit to
okay,
put the trailer there.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Clean it up.
Yes, added some things. I have to give kudos to Tim. He reached out to some other health departments for me, got a model
food establishment ordinance from the state, or affiliation of the state. So we worked on this, and then I tried to give you guys some notes to make it as easy as possible to kind of go through and see changes. So, because it is a pretty lengthy ordinance. So basically, anything in blue highlighted is a change from reading 1 to, this is the second reading now. Yellow was the original change that I brought to you guys a month ago. So just briefly, we are changing food service establishment to just food establishment, because that is going to encompass more. That's a recommendation from, like I said, the state ordinance example that we are going off of. Adding just a couple definitions, because with that new ordinance template, there's some things that weren't in our definitions that
Food
are in
trucks.
there. So actually, our food trucks fall under temporary
Okay.
food establishments. And just, you can
But
double
they
check that there.
they do have to have a permit, don't they?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And that was one of the changes that we made as far as inspection frequency for temporary food permits, was that we would do them, it says, I'm just trying to read it correctly.
I just wanna make sure that if somebody blows in town with a truck, stops it on a corner and starts selling food and somebody gets sick.
Yeah,
You know, they've got a permit of some sort.
I mean, we definitely have to chase people down. They don't come to us first sometimes before they do that. But yes, they do have a food permit, everyone
Okay.
who sells.
And should they, I guess for the community to understand that, would that document have to be posted somewhere, so if somebody walked up to their truck or their booth, they'd have to?
According to the food code, no. My inspection report doesn't have to be posted anyplace, according to the food code.
So you wouldn't know as a person whether they have been approved or not, or?
Correct.
just-
Yeah, they don't have to post the permit.
Okay,
Yeah,
And I could ask for it, and it's public record if they want to come to our office.
okay. Well, if I'm hungry, I'm not gonna come to your office for it and get the
Sure,
food.
if you're worried about that. And then we did remove section 9, just because I think we talked about that last time, about like the grading system and having something, like Tim says, putting up in the window. We don't do that. And there was just kind of, I think section 9 in general just kind of was confusing to that aspect with the placard. And then the big thing that you guys talked about last time, which is why we tabled it after reading 1, was the frequency of inspections. So basically, we've upped it to once a year, but there's kind of I talked to Zach about this, a clause, I guess is the best way that I could put it. Basically, if they meet certain requirements, they may go longer than 12 months with an inspection, but we would check in. And then like, that's just for things like COVID. Obviously, we weren't getting out there and doing food inspections when we had COVID. So there is kind of that clause that would.
Emergency situations.
Yep. And then it's really just risk-based, so just stating some things that we already do, like when we get a complaint that is concerning about food safety, obviously we address that immediately. We can assess and do inspections based on risk, that sort of thing. Because if we go out and inspect just a regular inspection today, and then we get some sort of complaint next week, just because, it's within that 12 months, we still have the right to go out and do that.
I'm sorry,
No, you're fine.
I just want to get too far away from it. So not posting it, that is pretty much, is that Indiana thing? Or is
Posting
that,
what?
Well,
The grades?
Your grades, yeah.
yeah, okay, I mean, okay, I reached out to my state fella, and Region 5 is what we're in, and there's 20 counties in Region 5. And Anthony said that as far as grading, the only county out of the 20 in our region is Harrison County. They do grade. And of course, they would also have to say in their ordinance that you have to post, because the food ordinance that comes out of Indianapolis, the 410 rule, doesn't say anything about posting. Even my report, which is what we call a narrative report, and I've got examples of that. But
And it doesn't have the grades in
yeah,
there. So
this
Harrison County
is
has come
what
up
I
with
give
the
the
grades
food
themselves.
people when I get done. And that's Popeyes, and that'll be online pretty soon, so it's nothing. And like I said, all my stuff's public. you know? But that's the way we do it in Indiana. Okay, getting back to it, Harrison County is the only one out of 20 in our region that grades. And he said he was only aware of one other municipality in the state of Indiana, and that's Fishers, Indiana. Marion County does not grade Indianapolis. Clark County does not, Floyd County
What are
does
the
not.
standards for the grading in
Well, that's a
Harrison
good
County?
question. You create them yourself.
I don't know what they are.
Yeah, and so that opens the can of worms.
Yeah.
Is one critical gonna knock you from an A to a B? Probably so. And it's very easy to get a critical depending on how strict your inspector is. Because, and I, you know, we ain't gonna take all night, everybody. But I've got 5 or 6 here codes. There's 410 violations in the food code. If you wanna read them, here's the book. But anyway, there's several of them that gives the inspector the option of it being a critical or non-critical. Cleanliness is one of them. You can go in and depending on the inspector, his attitude, it can be a critical or it can be non-critical. And you can understand, some kitchens are really bad and some need cleaning, but, well, like on that one I'm showing you, I've got a refrigerator there that's holding the coleslaw there at Popeyes. And I said it needs cleaning, but I gave it a non-critical. It wasn't critical, but it needed cleaning, you know.
But you give them a time to have it corrected?
Yeah, over here's the time frame, I don't know, 24 hours.
Comes in
Yeah.
right at 12 o'clock.
Exactly, yeah, you go in at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, well, you can't expect everything to be just spotless, you know.
Yeah.
You go in at 10 o'clock in the morning, after the breakfast is done and things like that, they should have it cleaned up, you know, somewhat like that. But anyway, so the inspector, there's several you can say is critical and non-critical. So depending on how strict the inspector is, if you give someone a critical, then that would probably knock it down to a B. Well, you know, there's lots of moms and pops. I mean, you're thinking of the fast food, you know, out on 56 out there, the Popeyes, the McDonald's, the Wendy's, but there's a lot of mom and pops, like, well, you're out there, Caldwell's, you know, Lisa, and then you've got Leroy's.
You do
And
the school
there's
systems, you do the jail?
I do the
you
school
all of it.
systems, the jail, the hospital. Are you going to give an A or B, C to them? Well, the people have to go to and eat at the school. They don't have a choice. Same way at the hospital, yeah. So I'm afraid that's the reason nobody in the state, except maybe Harrison County and Fishers, does A, B, C.
Okay.
Now, I know Louisville does, but, you know, I've seen reports, and who knows, that they do it for money making. Because what they'll do is they'll give them a B, and then if they want a re-inspection to get it to an A, it costs $200 to come back. The first one's free. And you know exactly what you gotta correct to get it up to an A, because you got the report, so they pay the $200 to get an A. Well, if everybody gets an A eventually, what good's doing doing that? And also, like I said, the narrative gives me a chance to talk to people, not really in an authoritative sense like a teacher, but yet I use it as a teaching tool. I say, this is what you're doing wrong. So you need to correct.
Question with that is, does your report go to the store itself?
I leave a copy with them.
So does it go to corporate?
That's up to them.
And
And sometimes, you're right,
That's where I'm getting. If
Because
a
I know
local
one
manager-
time I was at a restaurant, and it's a very good restaurant. And they were serving breakfast, they put the plate up there. A waitress comes to get the plate, and she just counted her money, I don't know, tips, what, counted her money. So her hands hadn't been washed. She reaches up and gets the plate, which is fine, but there was a couple pieces of toast there laying next to it. She picks them up with her bare hands and puts them on the plate. That's critical. Bare hand contact and not washing their hands. So I wrote it up. Well, the manager, you know, they kind of argued with me. I said, no, it's obvious. And they go, well, this is really going to hurt my performance. So franchises, you know, big stores, yeah, criticals, I think, man. Again, you go out to Lisa or you go out to Leroy's or something like that where it's just private ownership. And they want to be good. They want to be. But again, you know, there's a fine balance. You can be really strict and you don't get as good a compliance, I would say. You need to talk to people and convince them that it's better for them. That way people aren't going to get sick. People are going to eat their food, you know, and stuff.
But if I'm hearing you right, the balance we have in Scott County might be different in Jackson County or Clark.
Exactly.
So there's
exactly.
not a state standard, so this is exactly what we gotta do. There's a little judgment in there.
A judge, yeah. Now, the food code is what the food code is. It applies to every jurisdiction in Indiana. But again, it depends somewhat on the inspector. And, you know, are you gonna write up everything? I'm sure you could go into any of them and see a dozen violations if you really wanted to be a stickler. Well, there's one there, insects, flies. That's a critical if you write it up. Well, how many is too many flies? And time of year. You go in the winter, you don't see any. You go in the summer, you go to a donut case, it may be full of them, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's a lot of judgment call. It really is. And,
That's why I say the law may be that, but that doesn't mean there's not judgment on what meets that criteria. I mean, it's not a black and white. I don't
And
think.
that's why the ABC probably is not a good idea. I mean, again, a lot of it wouldn't apply. Schools, what does it matter?
It just
Jail.
gives you a sense of, I guess,
Security.
security maybe, but that doesn't mean.
Yeah.
That's a
They
picture
got-
in time, like Zach and I were
That
talking
doesn't
about.
mean
And you're right, it's a
the
false.
inspector left and now it's.
Exactly.
I know when I see it in the paper, it doesn't have a letter. It just says critical,
Yeah,
non-critical,
and that's why
explains
we're
what it is.
posting now, just.
And the
what
public
this
can
is.
see that.
They can see that now that
Yeah.
we're posting on our
Well, I
website.
mean, I'm glad you explained
Yeah.
it, because
Yeah.
I'm going to get asked this.
Sure.
By people.
Sure, sure.
So-
But let me give you an example. Let's say, well, Junkyard Barbecue was up here today at the church, and it was a CASA fundraising event. I don't know how much CASA got of it, but anyway, they're out of Seymour, and they're very, very good. They're very, very, as far as cleanliness, I don't know about food, but cleanliness. Well, let's say Junkyard comes to the fair, and Kevin and Bob comes to the fair, and Paradise comes to the fair. That's the guy out on William Road.
Yeah.
So two locals, one out of county. And, you know, Junkyard gets an A, and Kevin and Bob and Paradise both get Bs. That's when you're gonna get phone calls. I'll guarantee you. You know, that'll hit social platform. Well, why is out of county getting an A and local people getting Bs? You know, that's when you'll start getting phone calls.
Well, we won't.
Well, somebody will.
I can draw that right off.
Yeah, somebody will. But again, you know,
And I'm not saying I wanted you to, I just wanted to know.
an explanation.
An explanation,
Uh-huh.
explanation.
Yeah, and that's the best I can, that's the best I can do. Nobody does it. Why Harrison County decided it, I don't know. And that's been about 12 or 13 years ago I looked up there.
I think I saw it the other day.
Yeah. But that, and like say Fishers, which you said you think has their own health department.
Yeah,
now.
they just got their own health department since I've been here, so within the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
5 years. or
And I know
6 years.
Lake
You know-
County, Gary has its own health department. Other than that, no other city has,
And
has
a
their
little
own
other,
health department, that it's always a county health.
a little other issue with it is you guys don't have time to do this every month.
Well-
I mean, if we was to do this and do it right, you'd have to hire somebody else. Because
Well,
I don't think you could do it all.
Well, Tim,
Since you brought that up.
I don't know if I'm glad I did or not. I don't know.
no, I think it's just good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know.
No.
I printed out the 20 that's in my region, and the ones that are highlighted are the ones that have a dedicated food inspector. The ones that are not highlighted are like me, we're just a jack of all trades and master of none.
Well, that was my point. If you just do this a couple times a year, how safe is it those other 6 months? I mean, you know, they.
Well, okay, John, okay.
I mean,
And
I'm
you're
talking-
right.
no, I'm
You're-
talking about
I know.
because we
But
don't have
let's just
somebody
think
full-time.
about it. Let's just think about it logically for a second.
Yeah,
You know, let's say there's 20,000 people in Scott County, and I think there's a little bit more.
25.
Yeah, well, let's just say 20, and everybody consumes 3 meals a day. Some of us more, some of us less. That's 60,000 times 365 days a year. That's 22 million approximately meals consumed in Scott County every year. I don't know of anybody that's ever died from food poisoning in Scott County. Now, I'm not saying that's not happened, and I do know somebody that's got E. coli. Was sick for about 5 weeks and finally went to the doctor and they got some antibiotics. But, so if you're talking 22 million meals a day and you don't know of anybody that's ever died, now I'm not saying get sick, but died, that's pretty good odds. I know of a fellow that got drowned the other day, tragically. I know of people that's fallen out of trees hunting and either shoot themselves or break their neck and die. We have people that drive the roads that get killed. We have people that have guns that either because somebody, I mean, and you know, she was just talking about fentanyl, drugs, a lot. So if, I'm just saying the odds are that apparently, and it's not Scott County, it's United States. Our food defense program from the FDA is the best in the world without any question. Now, you hear about Wendy's, you know, 30 people die in Wendy's, but how many billions of hamburgers do they sell in a year's time, you know?
Actually, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, so.
I didn't
so
mean that like, I mean,
know,
to
I know.
even.
And it would be good to inspect more, I agree, but you're gonna have to come up with some more people.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. is what-
And the reason I never brought it up is because I don't feel like the county has the money to get another person.
Yeah.
So there's no need in fighting a battle you aren't
Well,
gonna win.
your customers are gonna distinguish if they're gonna go back to that restaurant or not, and word of mouth is going to destroy some people.
No matter what kind of policy you would adopt on inspections, I mean, you're not gonna be able, I mean, they're limited to being able to inspect, you know, the standards and make sure that the places are keeping under code when they're there. But I don't think you would be able to, no matter, unless you want to dedicate a massive amount of money, you would not be able to kind of
And
police private entities, you know, daily operations.
Yeah, but with that, if a customer, an employee, or a delivery person contacts you and says, hey, I was out there and you need to go out there, you're gonna make a spot.
Yeah, I
inspection.
either make an inspection or I call the manager within, 5 or 10 minutes, you know. So yeah, I either call the manager and talk to him and find out, there's always two sides to every
Oh,
story.
yeah, but you can have just front
Yeah,
employees that
yeah.
go, and that's the filthiest place there was.
But it's always funny because it's right after they get fired or quit, then it's terrible.
That's
But
true.
while they're working, they never report. And I told Michelle, foods is one of the things that I don't like. I love my septics because when I put a septic system in the ground, it's there. It's not changed. It's just like Zach said, as soon as I leave the food establishment, they do whatever they want.
Bring the chicken.
Yeah. So I don't have any control over that except the half hour or the hour I'm there. But my septics, boy, once they're in the ground, they're there.
Yeah.
So that's why I like them. I can control that, I guess, kind of control.
They just changed that though, right?
Maybe not.
They
It's,
not.
Maybe. Well, really, what I've been hearing about the new rule is it even being more expensive.
Okay.
I mean, if it goes through,
Went through training.
yeah, I mean, the septic tanks are going up 250 gallons per bedroom. I mean, you know, instead of a 3-bedroom being 1,000, it's supposed to be 1,250. Risers on D-boxes, more perimeter drain. So it's gonna cost people more, if it goes through. But yeah, I was thinking they were gonna go the other way, but, and I'm hearing it from Mike Mettler. So I'm not hearing it from the state legislature.
Well, for me, I think, someone made a post and it was, didn't you say you saw it or something? Wasn't it in Kentucky or something? It was some restaurant and they was bragging that they got their A status or whatever.
okay.
And then somebody shared that and attached my name to it, and then it was wanting to know. A few people actually started asking, why don't we do it here? And the thing is, I couldn't tell.
I know.
I couldn't tell.
Now you can. You know, no place
So
in
that's why I'm glad
Indiana,
you're here
or
to bring this out.
99.9%, Indiana does not do that. The State Department of Health does not recommend. And actually, our food's based on the Indiana's is based on the Food and Drug Administration food code. So the government does not, I guess, push that. I don't know the best way of saying it. They don't have any place in their code that takes a letter grade. It's, you're to inspect and give a narrative report of the violations, and they give them a timetable to correct it, and explain to them why it's a violation.
What you're doing though is if a person, like I said, I mean, just to give people an at ease, is that if you know a cooler's down at a restaurant, I mean, I work for UPS, but I had Papa John's account. All my trailers are refrigerated. So if that trailer goes down, I have so many minutes or hours to either fix the trailer or unload it. So,
We require with all of our permits that someone at the establishment has to be a certified food handler. And those are the people who are gonna be knowledgeable in those types of things.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's state law, isn't it? That's certified.
Yeah, there is a separate law on certified food handlers in the state.
I know over here, we had to send somebody to school to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, people ought to be at ease and knowing that there are safeguards to everything and self, I mean.
Yeah, and we're now posting them, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You all are now posting them on your webpage, so they can look on, they don't have to go.
And it's always
straight
been
to
public
you.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always
But
been
of course,
public
people
record.
maybe don't know that or didn't want to take the time to come in. We get requests ever so often, but it's usually from institutions that are surveying
Yeah.
certain amounts, like all the Wendy's in southern Indiana or something like that, and then we send our reports in.
And I do see it in the Crothersville paper occasionally.
Yeah, we used to do it in.
I mean, I
Crothersville.
assume they reach out for it.
And we were doing it, and then COVID hit, and when everything gets blamed on COVID, so we
Yeah.
blame COVID.
Might as well,
We
yeah.
quit. They wouldn't even let us in sometimes, and of course they shut down, some, so. But I mean, if there, you could increase, like Zach says, to where someone was there every day for an hour, then you'd be a meat processing plant, because the state has an inspector at a locker plant. All the time they're slaughtering, but, there's not very many slaughter plants, as we know, in the state right now, because everybody's trying to get their animals in. But anyway, it's impractical to have somebody standing there.
All right, thank you.
Well, I think
Appreciate it,
you guys, this is your
So
second reading, right?
This is second reading, and like Michelle said, we walked through some of the concerns that were raised
I think it
from
was-
the prior meeting and tried to address those with some additions that were, my understanding was optional from the
Model.
uniform kind of model that they provide for this. And so I think we're kind of at a place where it's your all's decision what you want to do.
You good with it?
I'm good.
Randy, you good with it? So I guess I'll entertain a motion to accept the changes in the food ordinance,
What's that number?
number 2022-009.
I'll make that motion to accept their food service establishment ordinance.
John makes a motion, Randy?
I second what I heard.
Randy
No, I
seconds
second
it.
the motion.
I'll make that unanimous, so.
Do you have to do another reading, or are we
Nope.
done? We're done. Okay. Thank
If
you,
somebody
guys.
said no, you would've had that.
And then you'll
covered,
get
right?
signatures
Yeah.
tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just scan that to
those-
me tomorrow or sometime this week?
This could have been it. You only need two by
Well,
state.
on the first-
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, it's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Are you familiar with that? I need a road ditch ripped out to make it so.
That's me.
Oh, are you going, you're going, okay. Well, it's one of Steve
Yes.
Why don't you send that to me? and I'll get it.
houses there.
I can do that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Talking about Joe?
Going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
I mean, if you want to meet out there, I can show, and it won't,
Corrections. Is that-
it'll take longer to get out there with the
Yes,
dipper than
thank
we
you.
do.
Yes.
Thank you.
He's got a perimeter drain that drains into the road ditch. Well, down below it, maybe 20 feet, it's growed up and filled in to where several times a year in the spring, the water table gets up and the perimeter drain can't work because it's full of water.
Okay.
And like I said,
It just sits there.
yeah, it just needs a little dip in it, and I'll call you and give you the address.
Okay.
And,
Goes is yours?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I didn't
South
call
of
it.
56.
I thought it was yours.
I didn't know whose it was, so anyway.
It's north of 56.
Going?
Going.
Yeah,
It's north of 56 up there on, off Slab.
well, yeah, it's, if you go from New
Oh,
Providence.
you're talking about,
south,
okay, I know where you're, yeah, I'm thinking
It's
of,
a little dead end road.
I know what you're talking about. Mike,
I mean, in East Paintsville, I'll give it to you.
no,
But
that's fine.
we can trade.
I know what you're talking about now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it is.
it is.
Well, I was gonna say, it's right next to Cut
I know
Shop, it's
who
right
you are.
next to where you live,
Yeah.
just the next road
I was
south.
gonna let him run with it.
Yeah, it's dead end,
It's,
yeah. But anyway,
You just wanted to
I'll
sign
give
it.
you a call and give you the address. And like I said, it'll take longer to get the dipper and a dump truck. It won't even be a full truck.
Okay.
But it just needs cleaned out so that perimeter drain is a little better.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I know what you're
Thanks,
talking
man.
about, that's, Mike Trulock's mom used to live on the corner there.
Yeah.
Before you guys move on to the next item.
We're moving
Michelle-
on.
Yeah, we're moving on. Then you'll take it up with that young lady right there. If you guys, if you don't mind, would you just re-sign this? She had to change it from to designated. There was one word, and then she had to change it. And this was your precinct, when you condensed your precincts. And this was already signed and done. This was done back in May of
All right,
22.
so,
You just need to sign it, move.
That's
she
where you
changed
combine
one word,
The Vienna
and the
Township.
state needed it modified.
I
to change that.
we do it by consensus and just sign it?
It's just a.
You've already taken action on it.
Yeah.
It's
You
just
just need to
re-sign
sign
it.
it.
Yeah. Actually, you saved money with doing that, if I remember right. Instead of amount of money, so you could afford to pay the workers more. Yeah, it's a good thing. I take it back.
All right, moving on. Resolution number 2022-010 for employee bonus for the ARP fund.
That I drafted for you, take a look at in your packet. I ran that by Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, and I copied Zach on that. So, let's see, you need that.
I know I asked you about,
And I'm, yes, and I just
question.
did a little suggestion thing, you guys can tell me what to do with it, because, all this is just easily
Okay.
modified, depending on how you wanna look at it. I just,
the problem I have with part-time employees is that we may have a part-time employee that works one time a month. And I think you need to be considered a part-time, I guess a full part-time employee. You need to work a certain amount of hours a month to be considered a part-time employee. So, cause you can be a part-time employee and work, you know,
I don't know.
I
that
cald
we're-
one regularly scheduled,
Yeah.
I
and
think
then
you
I
tried
did
to
one
break it.
intermittent.
Yeah, you've got the address
She
in
tried to
there.
break it into two separates. Um,
And if you don't wanna give intermittent employees anything, we
Yeah,
can just take
so-
that line out.
Mhm.
I just did a tier system on the part-time. And then even there's another tier there that's not spoken, is the one that when they don't work more than 10 pay periods in that 9 months.
I don't think
They
it
don't get
directly
anything.
addresses the concern. I get what you're saying, but
well, and I guess I'm gonna throw it out here, cause I'm not picking on one person or the other, but I do know that there are employees that, and I won't say this, cause that's where the majority of the part-time people are at the sheriff's office, and I know that some people, they don't work a
full,
they may work 2 days a month as a part-time deputy. And so with this, the way we're doing this, those guys could work 2 days a month and get paid a bonus.
Well-
And to me, they're part-time.
Intermittently scheduled have to log hours for a minimum of 10 or more pay periods in a 20 pay period cycle.
She's got
So they're
that.
significantly intermittent part-time
The
person.
question to me be more like, do you want
They
to give
hit
that
10
amount or
pay
not?
periods
Yes,
out
you
of
could-
To those
20.
people, that might be a little high.
You
Yeah.
could alter the classification in part C, I guess, or not alter the classification, but alter the scheduled amount, I guess.
Those are just, that was just thoughts, that it was not anything that I just threw that out there as
So
a.
when's the council's meeting?
They will not look at this and be able to entertain this due to advertisement till October 26th. They have got their budget adoption final meeting scheduled for that day.
All right, I'm gonna say this. He's probably gonna get my tire sliced or something. But I think it's gonna get sticky. You know, decide on, and I understand, you know, we've got, you know, written out that we're gonna hear about it. I think, in my opinion, is just not give bonuses to part-time employees. And maybe give full-time employees a bigger bonus.
How many part-time people do we have
Well, it depends on.
that qualify?
That qualify. I have a stack that's this thick that I'm gonna have to go back through. I've counted some of them, haven't added them up, but the estimate that I presented at the last meeting
33.
was 38 or 9, I think.
You said 33 last time.
I can pull my notes and see. But,
I had them on notes.
do you have it in your notes? Okay, well then that's good,
It was-
because I didn't have my notes in front of me.
All right, so
So are those people that are part-time, how, are they working every week?
The difference I made here was intermittently scheduled. That would be all of part-time that wasn't irregularly dependent upon,
The
that
best
hit all the
one.
payrolls.
The
They
best one.
hit 10 of 20 pay periods. So those are part-timers that we depend on, like, for example, I'm gonna just throw it out here.
There's a good one.
Steve Spicer,
Yeah,
okay? If
we need
we
him.
depend on him. He hits 10 or more pay periods out of 20. Under the plan of whether you're regularly scheduled or not, would not include him. Those are the people that I'm thinking about.
All
And
right.
if it's some guy just on the list, he never comes in,
If you
he
see
wouldn't
him
get
on
it.
there for 2 pay, because a
And
lot
that's
of our
what I'm getting at.
part-times.
is
Yeah.
that-
Well, here's what I did too, whenever we talk about the hours. A lot of that 33 that I told you probably is not a good number anymore, because I went back and had Trina pull the hours that these people work. And that they were here between January and, so if there's some that only work 5 or 6 pay periods
And
in
that's
a
where I'm-
20 pay period
that's
cycle,
where I'm
they're
getting
not gonna be given a bonus according to this plan.
And that's where I'm
They
getting
have to
at.
hit 50% of the pay periods or they don't get one period.
Yeah, I get,
Yeah, that's where I'm at on that
that
scale.
makes, and
That's
that's
what
where
that
I was
scale is.
questioning is that, you know, you can say you're part-time and,
And EMS is another department. They work part-timers and they may pull a 12-hour shift once a month. They may pull a 24-hour
That's
shift
correct.
twice a month.
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, it's just not one department that has these part-timers that are very low-hour intermittent.
I'm getting that, and I wasn't picking on somebody, I was just saying that I know in that circumstance, I should have used EMS the same way, because you're right, they have full-time jobs, and they're coming in and working to cover a shift every
Yeah.
once in a while, so.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it's right for somebody to get $500, you know, bonus, half of what a full-time person's gonna be getting. And when the full-time person is probably working overtime.
Well, and then the part-time, I mean, you guys just said that last time because you
Yeah,
wanted the
those
benefit to be
those are
there.
just the amounts.
So I had Trina do a dummy check.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the difference, what's gonna happen. And I've got actually an email from Addie, because I had some questions for her regarding this bonus. I actually talked to Jason Simler at Baker Tilly as well. So there's several layers to these things once these ideas are pitched out here, because we want to tie up all the loose ends, because you don't want to, offend somebody, you don't want to make somebody eligible and then have all these questions, and again, they'll arise anyway, regardless. But I talked to Jason, this is fine as far as that, because this could be used just like general fund money to do a bonus out of general fund. If you had extra money left in general fund 1 year, you could, and effectively give everybody a little bit of an incentive, so to speak. So you're good there. I talked to Addie, her email's attached. These are perf subject. So we are going to not only, when I calculate for the council's appropriation amount from the ARPA fund, I've got to include perf, and I've also got to include sheriff's pension on this, because
Sheriff Department pension,
sheriff officer pension.
yeah.
Not jail, that's perf, but
Mhm.
the sheriff's officers get sheriff pension on this. So there's gonna be added expenses layered on top of this. Going back to the dummy check, I had Trina run a $1,300 disbursement with just the federal withholding and the FICA, Social Security, which is like 13.6 something percent. Anyway, no, 15, it's 15 something. It came out right at $1,000 and some change, okay, for a $1,300. When you gave a part-time, which again is not gonna be perf matched, and part-time sheriff's deputies do not get sheriff's pension matches. Part-times do not. Their check for an $800 came out 600 and some change. So it became more than $500 to
So that
them.
needs to be
So there's
lower.
wiggle room there if you don't wanna set that at 800 and whatever.
But
There's
the
a little bit of
1,300 were.
The
kinda
1,300
close.
was pretty much spot on. It's just gonna be the county's gonna have the expense, okay?
And
It's
that's-
not gonna be the employee.
That's what I was asking.
So the 800,
So
there
we
is a
could
little
go
wiggle
to
room.
probably 700 on the
Yeah.
part-time.
Yeah,
But you, on part B here, you have part-time, employee, regular scheduled, active, employed, with no break in service. So does that mean that the person may work 2 days a week, or,
And we got 3-day-a-week part-time people. That's what part-time is. Anybody under 30 hours is part-time.
so they're not getting benefits, they're just,
Mm-mm.
they're getting a paycheck?
And break-in service would have had, basically like a leave associated with it, like they were not at the county for, they would have been, normally been scheduled for so many days within a month, but they were not at the county for whatever reason.
Sick or vacation?
Well,
Sick,
D, look at D.
Yeah.
So if they weren't here for 2 pay periods.
Yeah.
That negates them being eligible for a bonus.
Okay.
Because there's leaves of absences that are compensated, such as workers' comp, military leave, there's certain things like that, that they're getting compensation somewhere else.
Okay.
Uh,
And but FMLA, you can't do that to people on FMLA because they're subject to all the benefits because they are still employed.
Well,
Just-
but a part-time person wouldn't be eligible for FMLA.
Yes, they are.
Be
As
covered
long as
by
they
FMLA.
pull 1,150 hours a year, they're eligible for FMLA. If they
Okay.
pull 1,150 a year,
All right, so they
that's a
have to,
3-day-a-week person.
they have to be
but that's gonna be
full-time,
Very
part-time.
few people.
a smaller number.
Full-time
You're-
part-time.
I can think of 3 people that does that right
It's
now.
gonna be,
And what I don't see on here is the people who will get nothing, which would be elected officials and all the boards.
And I just didn't
Does that need to
state.
be added on there? I would feel guilty about I wouldn't do it.
I'm not done.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot give elected, compensation has to be set in a year prior to. If there was ever any bonuses or additional compensation with elected officials, the council would have to appropriate and put that on the salary ordinance in the year prior to January 1 of whatever year that is.
I wouldn't want that.
That's gonna happen anyway.
No.
It's just looking to me like the 1,300 for full-time employees is good. The part-time maybe ought to be 700, I think is what you mentioned, Mike.
I said 7, but if she's
I
talking
think-
about that it's still 6, you said 6 and some change?
You
Like
guys
650.
started off with 1,005,
Yeah, I know.
so that was your goal. So it's, yeah, it could
And
be
then
taken
We
probably
said 13
down,
to,
I,
I'd say, can we go to 6 and still live with that? Or with the,
that 1,300 divided by 2 is 650, so 6 to 7 is somewhere in whatever you guys would choose, would probably hit the mark.
650,
At 7.
do
Let's see it.
650.
At 700, it's $26,600.
yeah, but I'm talking about
What they net.
when they
I
pull all the
understand.
taxes and stuff out of it, are they gonna get the 5, or are they gonna get a little bit more than 5, or?
I understand.
I'm good for
I would
650.
just,
Let's go 650.
I'll go with that.
You go with 650? That'll get close to 5.
Well, honestly, I'd rather see our full-time people get more money.
And I'm thinking the
I
intermittent
get that,
people,
but-
300.
But what Tammy was saying, and I guess that's where I asked the question to Tammy in an email, is that I don't wanna give a part-time person that works 1 or 2 days a month a bonus. I mean, I don't think that, I don't think they should be eligible.
No.
But what she's saying here in part B here is that these part-time people are not working a full week, they're working 3 days, but they're working every week.
Consistently,
They're working
yeah.
every week, 3 days. So, they're technically full-time, part-time, you know, but I don't want someone that works, you know, occasionally, and I don't think they should be eligible for a bonus. So that's where I was getting at with the question I had for Tammy, bless you.
Like, I've got a person over in 911, they have log time for 20 pay periods. 1 week, they're 15.25 hours, then the week they're 20, they go to 18.75, 25.50, then they go to 60 and 80. Well, they're people that you depend on to fill in for
Yeah.
vacations and
Yeah.
sicknesses, and with COVID, again, I'm gonna Tim Breer and blame everything on COVID, but, you know, we do give a policy that says, hey, look, you can be off work up to 10 days, well, who's gonna fill their shoes, so to speak, so you've got that situation. Then they may go down to 8 hours, and then they go to 68 hours, 72 hours, 80. Those are things that you could say, okay, give me your average, but is that fair too? Because you depend on them to come in at some point in time, every 2 weeks, they're here doing something.
Steve's a
And that's
good
why I
example.
logged the 10 weeks of the 20. They're here half of the time, and that's why they get even a bonus, but a reduced amount. That's just something I pitched out there to kind of catch those people, like our transfer station backup person, that gets a little bit of appreciation, because sometimes they're called in on a whim.
But you're still talking about roughly 33 people in the part-time pool.
Yes, and then again, which the dollar amount would change depending on what you guys decide to do. Whether, if you just wanna stop and do part-time that are regularly scheduled, and you wanna say, and they have pulled more than so many hours between January 1 and October 1, we can set that parameter, and then nobody else will get it but them. You guys can set an hour that you want them to hit.
I'm for the intermittent people getting something, whether 400 probably too much, but I could see 250 or something. Something that just says, hey, thanks for coming in.
And then there'll be some people that won't get anything because they're part-time and haven't met all the criteria.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. There'll be a few.
But
that
at
won't get it.
at 250, you're probably gonna get $100 or $150 or something, and I get that,
You'll
Well, the
be
lower
able
the
to
amount, the
have
less taxes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so.
Well, if we're on it, I mean, just go ahead and do the 650. And that way they get the 500, right?
Well, 650 is for the.
For Part B.
But for Part C, if you wanted to alter that as well.
yeah, I could
Part
see,
C,
250 or 300.
I
Part
could
C
see-
means that, they've actually had 10 paychecks since the first of the year, which is working half the year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm good with 300, I don't know. We could, I mean, for the intermittent, Part C. We started out at 400, which was
That's
just
still
throwing
in there.
numbers. Yeah.
if I'm thinking this right, B and C, which are part-time, we're talking 33 people that's in that pool.
At most. right.
Between the
At the
two
most.
of them,
Yes,
between B and C?
And B and C, mhm.
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
Actually, it saves money.
And it might even be
Yeah, but
fewer, because whenever we
650
first
there,
pulled the
but on here,
list,
we need to reduce
it,
that.
it was just part-timers that had been started here and was still here.
That's where
So I might have a few
that's
that
where
won't come
John's
off.
saying 250 or something. Those are people that have, in a year's time, have worked 20 pay, or 10 pay periods. Sometimes, some sort of hours in a 10 pay period. What's your pleasure?
Yeah, I see that.
Huh?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so is there a number we wanna do there? I know, John, you threw
I
out
threw
3 and
300.
250 and. Good with 3, Randy?
Yeah, I go with 3.
Okay. And what I'll do then is modify this and bring it back to you. We will have a meeting before the council adopts this, And I'll get calculations done based on your new numbers, and I'll have figures for council, so I know what to have.
You
have
pretty
this
much would
advertised.
know how many people are eligible too, would you?
I've got this, and I'm just, again, gotta have time to go through this and pick which bonus they get and count it up, and then figure the taxes and the perf and so, cause I gotta get the whole thing for advertisement, cause it'll have to
Okay.
all come out of there.
All right,
So you guys agree to just table this and let me bring back changes
Yes.
next meeting?
so we're tabling B, actually, we're tabling the whole resolution, but, what we're changing is section B from 800 to 650 and section C from 4 to 3.
Yeah. And the council, that won't affect the council's time, will
I
it?
just need this to calculate, so I can get the amount to advertise, so council can, consider the appropriation.
But I mean, in our 2 weeks, it won't make a difference for them.
No.
Because they'll still be meeting right after.
They will, I don't have enough time to advertise by next Tuesday and get all this for appropriation. And I'll get, your time frame and the council's time frame will work congruently.
300 makes 250.
The one thing I talked to you about earlier, hang on. Visitors Commission, we got 2 employees there. I suppose they would be eligible, wouldn't they?
No, because they're not county employees till after the first of the year.
Well, I mean,
That's-
I'm gonna have a silly thing here.
You took them, you recognize them as a county department, but yet their salary ordinance and all that
It's
wasn't,
not been changed.
they've not been adopted in the salary ordinance.
What
They
would you
give
do
them-
in the
they
case
give-
of John?
Do what?
What would you do in the case of John?
John.
Deputy Coroner?
He's part-time employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he works,
I mean, the thing is, you don't know how many hours he works.
well, but it's not an hour, he gets paid a check.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, is what he
Does he get paid monthly?
I'm okay with him getting one.
I think he gets
I'm just
paid
wondering.
every
Yeah, I
mean,
2
it's-
weeks.
No, I'm good.
So he's,
Or he might be paid every
he gets
6
paid.
months. I
He
can't,
gets paid,
I have to
so
look in the
he's-
salary ordinance.
he'd be in the 650.
Yeah,
He'd
the
be-
way I'm looking at it,
there.
it would be.
Where I'm,
Well, Lonnie
where
wouldn't,
I'm-
Lonnie wouldn't get
I just
anything.
wanted
would
to
he?
know, because that's a little bit of a twist. on
Where
what
I'm,
we're talking
where I'm
about.
going with the other part though, with the tourism, is that from past experience with their budget, they give themselves a bonus every year anyway.
Can they do that this year?
They're still, they're not under us yet. I mean, I know we said we were gonna bring them under our umbrella, but then we said we weren't doing it till, the first of the year because of the pay and all the other stuff that goes
As
along
far as
with what
their
they're doing,
ledgers
so.
and their.
Technically, officially, they are, but unofficially, they're not, so. I guess
Officially, they're gonna be, but
that
not yet.
that would be a council, just thought.
Well, this whole thing, yeah, ends up there.
So I mean, until, we're not designating who's gonna get what yet anyway, so they.
I haven't
they'll,
made, I mean, I will get the list and with their amounts and calculations,
Okay,
because we'll obviously need to,
So they could actually give themselves a bonus if they wanted to.
they have.
Even, I mean, now.
they don't have ARPA funds, I don't think, but,
No, I mean out of their own funds.
but if they, yeah, that part I don't know.
I've been told every year that the board, their board gives them a bonus. I don't think they do it on their own, but I think their board gives them a raise and gives them a bonus.
Well, I'm assuming they still could, if we haven't took them under our umbrella in January. That'd be up to them.
I venture to say they could. He's not gonna say. Take it under advisement.
Well, they're a product of the county.
I think
But
there
they're
were
not
some
under our umbrella.
distinguishing features in that situation. So obviously, we were in a situation where we were effectively mandated to choose option A or option B, right? One was effectively, again, what the finding was that the board was a county department. There was a decision to be made about whether we were going to employ the individuals who had been employed in the past by that board to conduct kind of the daily operations, or contract with a 501c3. So I think presently, they're in a bit of a limbo state, but I would agree with the statement basically that the employees as they sit today, are not, county, well, the board itself has been deemed a county. I mean, like, that was part of the, I guess, the rub in that whole situation was that State Board of Accounts basically just said, no, they are. We'll have to look at that.
Said table. I got a question for you. I just saw a claim here. Did we not, at one time, the health department start doing all the drug testing?
We do? Probably after hours, accident would be my guess.
Well, it says random employee drug testing.
That's what I call the line item that I pay ITI.
Oh, they're the organization that organizes all of our randoms.
Okay, so you don't do those?
Yeah.
Well, we have to have a third party, like, have the pools and pull them, and then they, organize the DOT
That's for the
stuff.
test. That's for the analysis of the samples. Those claims are. They do the actual testing,
Yes.
but they send them off,
Okay.
and that's for the lab work.
Yeah.
And that's the, ITI is the organization that,
Yeah, that
that's the
performs
third
the
party that.
analysis and then pulls in medical review
Yeah.
and all that.
You
Yeah.
don't wanna have anything like that.
All right. Moving along,
One more about the ARPA. There was additional appropriation advertisement for ARPA. I just want you guys to go back over what you want council to review, because when I do this additional advertisement for ARPA, I know we had talked about Kevin Hall's signs for the highway. I talked to Teresa about it earlier in thinking we could advertise, I believe it was 10,000 that Kevin Hall needed for the highway replacement signs for the ones that have been lifted.
yeah,
So can we advertise then out of rental proceeds fund and ARPA and let council just do the choice thing with that? Or do you want it just out of ARPA? Because you have funds in rental proceeds, that's
Yeah,
your discretion.
I thought we were using the rental proceeds for something else, and that's why we changed what we were doing.
I mean, it costs a lot of money for us to put signs out there for people to just steal. So I've been talking to Kevin, and we're moving towards recycling pizza boxes.
Oh. When it-
Yeah, just paint
We've got a new pizza business coming in, you can get some more.
them. So those of you in the county, you have to be turning your pizza boxes so we can put signs that really.
I think there's some kind of a, I think signs now you can actually have some kind of a, they can be like a phone app where you can actually know where those signs go.
Oh,
I don't know how more
Tracking
expensive that would be,
device or
but,
something.
huh?
Like a tracer.
Yeah, I don't know how much more expensive that would be, but.
Oh, Lord, I bet it would be
Well, I
expensive.
don't
It might be
know,
worth it.
it was brought up to my attention by a former commissioner.
So it might be worth it.
It might, I don't know.
Microchip.
I thought we just tell Kevin, look at it.
yeah,
That's been a problem for
and again, I
many
wanna,
years.
I wanna thank the prosecutor for, I had asked him to put something out there, explaining to people that it's all fun and games to go take a sign down in the middle of the night and put it in your garage or bedroom or whatever, but, it's technically stealing, so.
Go to yard sales and you'll see them in people's
yeah.
yards.
It's dangerous. You get
And
one
it-
person who knows, that, you don't want to have to stop on this road, but somebody has to stop on the other road, and you get somebody crossing that road who's not familiar with the area.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's on you once you steal that sign.
but anyway, I don't care if you do it both ways and let council decide what they wanna do, so.
All right, now, on another thing, Andrew, I talked to him, I double checked with him, because if you know the Microsoft platform changed that big, he does not have that, because the things have even changed since then, so he does not need to talk to you guys until 23 about that, okay? So we won't worry about that before the end of the year, that's
Okay.
gone. So the bonuses and the traffic signs, anything else I need to put on there that you guys would want to entertain out of ARPA? I just wanna make sure I get
Out
it
of
all in
ARPA?
there. Uh-huh,
What if we haven't talked about it yet, but I know it's coming?
Well,
we can't do it.
I have brought this up before, I'm concerned about the money, for to replace the hopper and all that at the landfill. I'm afraid one of these days that's just gonna,
Well, I think, I think we need to entertain an executive session with council and the commissioners and go back to determine if the landfill is a viable, I guess,
I agree.
a viable, department for us to run, because we're spending a bunch of money and we're still having to throw money in at the end of the year because it's not making, and I'm not asking for it to make money, but it's, we don't have the money to continue to go down a rabbit hole. So I think we just need to have a conversation amongst all the people to say, hey, you're not budgeting enough money for it, and there's a reason you're not budgeting enough money for it, but at the end of the year, we don't have the money to fund it.
Last year.
And actually, sorry, but it's, I mean, in July, we didn't have the money to fund the rest of it, so.
Not with $144,000 expense a year just in haul off. And, I don't know if you want me to go ahead and say something, because I was gonna wait till the end of the meeting while we're talking about trash, more trash talking. Is that I've reached out to IDEM, a couple of people, I've reached out to CERD, Southeastern Indiana Recycling District. We have tax allocations out of property and excise tax that go to CERD. So we support that organization through our local property taxes and B&B taxes. They will perform this service for us free. And I will get in touch with Ecotech. I will get a history from them on our haul-offs, on our information, and also the current contract, the latest contract. What Zach and I looked into about the contract, because we went digging for that after the meeting last time, and it was a 4-year term that renewed automatically once a year. If you didn't do anything, it was a 1-year renewal, but it was only good for 4 years. The last information I can find on signing a contract was 2015. It looks as if we are out of contract with Ecotech, so I think we're a free agent at that point. We can go shopping. So, but sir, the beautiful thing about this is they will do this for us for free. They will look at our information, do the notice to bidders, take care of all the specifications. They will do it based on what our needs are and what our history has been, and they will get that and help us, and then they'll send the draft to you guys for final approval to let the bids.
Well, I think we still need to look at having the executive to discuss, we want to go down this road, or do we want to take a different path, so.
We are gonna be looking at your all's claim and how to take care of the Ecotech bill, with council. Now, the 11th, 12th, and 13th, they have budget, like their all-day sessions, and then that gives us time to advertise, and any other additional appropriations and business to close out October we'll do on the 26th. That's why I'm kinda trying to nail you guys down on the ARPA money, so I can get this advertised for the 26th. Do you guys wanna have a conversation with them on the 11th, 12th, or 13th? 11th, they're gonna probably try to get business out of the way, and then talk budget stuff on the 12th and 13th. And it wouldn't probably hurt one of you guys to come and talk to them about the trash situation and just kind of put some.
Well, I mean, I'm all right doing that, yeah, but I'd like to have a report, you know, how much the last 5 years, how much has it brought in, how much we have thrown at it, and how much it's costing us to actually, you know,
And
how
I'm
much
gonna
it's
give
actually
you
cost to keep it open and what we're paying out.
a little bit of information, be it good or bad. Maybe I don't need to say this on the video, but,
Well, while you're talking trash, go ahead.
I will. I'll do trash talking. In a little birdie in the ear, so to speak. People get aware of situations, and I remember I talked to you guys last time about your fee schedule. You talked about what's a truckload, what's it worth, you do your best to guess. It was mentioned to us about a scale. And they have been suggested, I guess, from CERD for several years in a row, you need a scale. Because it is common knowledge out there that people that live in Jefferson County, if they're gonna dump a load of feathers, they go to Madison. If they're gonna dump a load of rock, they come to Scott County. Because they're gonna pay a whole lot more to dump that same truckload of rock as they would You see what I'm saying?
And they're absolutely right.
And we have no way of weeding out who is our county people, who is adding to our haul-off bill. We don't have any mechanisms for that, so this is multi-layered. It's a really big deal.
No, and you're right, but I mean, we also gotta look at the fact that how much it costs to put in a scale.
That how much are you losing
And-
over the course of time because you haven't put
Yeah.
a scale in?
But
Yeah,
That's
it
the
might be
expense.
cheaper just to shove it down than it would be to
exactly.
put.
So those are the things, that's
Right.
what I'm saying,
Yeah.
those many layers in there.
Yeah,
Do you invest, build it up to where you have a model to run it, and eventually it will be breaking even? We're not supposed to make money here, but we don't wanna be running just on
right.
Air.
If we're gonna keep it open, we gotta spend a serious amount of money to
So
it.
then you've gotta have that long-range plan, and we invest now, what are we gonna recoup, what are our fees gonna be? You know, because there's just a lot of things that goes into that.
I'd rather spend, less and still have the same type of service, so.
Which we could through Scottsburg.
And then I've said before on your, remote pickups, I mean, if you wanna continue to run that service,
We can do that.
I think your stickers, honestly, in my opinion, need to go up to $1, cause we've already kind of rudimentarily run those numbers. And, if you're selling 16,000 stickers a year, you'll get $16,000, and that's gonna about break even. So, that's where we're at with some of this stuff. Unfortunately, inflation is hitting us everywhere, and 75 cents has been, it's been a bargain for years now, and that was what was set, I think, in the very beginning, wasn't it? And that was back in the 90s. So, yeah, and it's not had a penny change.
Well, we definitely have to do something, because right now it's
Well-
not fair to the people who pays for trash service to have this on their tax roll of keeping this place open, and that's what's happening. Yeah.
Alright. So you're going to put the additional $10,000,
Advertising in ARPA or out of rental,
Okay.
and then the employee bonus amount, whatever I calculate, which I can bring that figure back to you guys with the modified ordinance, or resolution, I mean.
okay,
Next meeting, how's that?
alright,
And if you think of something else, please email me or call me, and I can add it to the advertisement, because it doesn't hurt to advertise. It doesn't have to mean that it's gonna happen, you know
yeah.
that.
Alright, consideration of the monthly claims for September 2022, has everybody had an opportunity to look at that?
I have.
I'm gonna, there was there was a couple of things on there, but I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion to accept.
John makes a motion, Randy?
I'll second.
Randy seconds it, I'll make that unanimous. Consideration of the claims payable to the Indiana Auditors Association for $200. I guess that's for your fees or
Me and Teresa will
travel.
go to auditor's conference for a day at Belterra. There's no overnight with that, we're just driving over there.
And I'll
We're
just put
cheapskates.
these all together. RAI Engineering for $4,800. This was their, I guess, bill for the courthouse roof was, which I'm gonna say is very, I'm gonna say it was very, fair, I guess, I'm gonna say, cause I think we paid more than that with DLZ. So,
Well, we was looking at more than that from royalty.
yes. So, RA Engineering for the courthouse roof, design stuff, repair, design, Thomas Plastics Machinery for $66,500 for the jacking up and the roof repair, and Indiana testing for $849, so.
Which is what I was talking about, sorry.
So I'll entertain a motion to pay those additional claims.
I'll make that motion.
Randy makes the motion to pay the additional claims spoken. John?
I'll second it.
John seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so.
And by the way, Thomas Plastics, that's it.
They're
We've
done.
dispensed, that's the last two draws. Okay.
Consideration of the minutes for September 7th regular meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to see the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to
Accept.
accept those.
I'll make it.
Randy makes a motion, John?
I'll second
John seconds that, I'll make that unanimous. Holiday schedule for 2023, I think we talked about that at the last meeting a little bit. We decided that we were going to move the Christmas, I think, from Friday, Monday instead of Monday, Tuesday, so. I'll entertain a motion to accept the holiday schedule for 2023.
I'll make the motion, accept.
John makes the motion, Randy.
I will second that.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. So do we need to sign one of these?
I've got, yes, please, if you don't mind, that'd be great. Just pass that.
FMLA request.
You best approve this one.
Hang on a second.
So that's why you
Yeah,
better approve
You
that one.
better go over that, or
I'm in
else.
trouble.
I don't know what that is. There's the FMLA request. Get up to 10, please.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the FMLA request.
I'll make that motion.
John makes the motion, Randy
There, is that better?
second, and I'll make that unanimous.
Yep.
Any comments, counselor?
I have two things. So back on July 20th, you guys approved a physician's services agreement. I think we had intended to get the signatures at that. There may have been a mix-up, but they have asked us for another copy with a signature, so
I thought we did sign that, but that's fine.
I remember doing it, so
Think
I
we
don't know
approved it
what
but
the
didn't
issue
sign?
was, but-
Well, there was names on there that was listed for signatories that shouldn't have been, and they blacked them out and got the right, we're putting them in, so we just need to sign it again.
So I'm gonna ask for permission to sign this again.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah,
Motion, whatever.
Second.
Unanimous. Thank you.
thank you.
Is that all you got? There's one.
The only other thing was with the transfer station and the bidding process, did we need to go ahead? Because we have a time frame in which we have to either get on or off for our renewal for the permit.
Oh, yeah, there's 60-day review, I thank you for reminding me of that, because they also, there's the permitting process, so if we're gonna continue to operate the transfer station past December the 6th, we have to, pay the state fee and go through the renewal process.
What is that fee?
I think it's somewhere between $2,000 to $4,000, depending on what you do. There's several items to check, and then it depends on what you're doing there. But usually transfer stations aren't near as expensive, obviously, as a landfill.
No, that's not an annual fee, is it?
That's a fee every 10 years.
Every 10 years.
So we won't have to go back through this again. And again, part of this, I've reached out to IDEM and the guy who, Mr. Pittman, that did the inspection. I've placed a call to him, he's not yet called me back, regarding our plan, because there's an emergency operations plan, and there's also the operations plan itself. So I just wanna make sure there's no gaps in that, because if you have to submit that with your permit, there's a lot of stuff to go through. Have to notify adjacent landowners, there's a plethora of things to do to send that to the state, and then they have a 60-day review window.
If we don't have this done by the first year, our plant's shut down, is that correct?
It's actually not the first of the year, it's,
December 6th.
December, yeah.
But,
I think we still continue to
I do too.
do like we're gonna run it for
Mhm.
eternity, and then if we don't, then we change our mind, so.
Yeah.
so proceed with the permitting and proceed with letting CERB help me with the bid
Yeah, and I
process.
think that's probably one of the most
Yeah.
important ones, is going ahead and agreeing that, CERT will handle the notifications to bidders for anything,
That's
if
fine.
you decide
I think we need to do that so that we can get
running.
legitimate bidders out here.
Yeah, if we decide to keep it, we gotta have it done.
Yeah.
But I also wanna know that we're being competitive with our bids,
So
so.
there, that's the only other point I had, so,
So if you want them to make a motion to let me proceed on those two things?
yeah, if you would.
I'll make a motion to let Tammy proceed with the permit process for the landfill.
And
And
to,
notice the
to
bidders.
let cert
Yes, let's hear
entertain motion, or
Yeah.
quotes, or
that motion made.
All right, you go, girl.
Randy seconds that, I guess, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Anything else?
That's it.
Tammy, you got anything?
Okay.
John, you got anything?
No, I'm gonna tell you here in a minute.
Randy, you got anything? All right, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna ask our clerk, since she's sitting there, when's early voting start? What?
October 12th.
So October 12th, we have early voting in this building and also early voting at the library
Nope. Just
on way here? Okay. Any problems you think is gonna come up or you see or needing? I know you asked about security and I don't think we ever did that. And a matter of fact, after I had that conversation with you, we didn't have security at the library, so I just, as I said to you, I think if we can move those to the hallway where we keep people from wandering around the courtyard or courthouse.
Yeah, for
And
the two Saturdays that we have voting, I'm going to take it from in front of the clerk's office hallway to by the doors, so that they're.
so they're in and out.
Yeah, in and out.
That Saturday would be your only time you wouldn't have security.
Yes, and that's,
Yeah.
and it just kinda hit me, and that's why I texted you guys doing it, just because I was walking by that day, and I'm like, oh, we're supposed to have security at the courthouse, so.
Would you prefer to have somebody there? I'm just asking, I may have put you on the spot and shouldn't have, but I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult to,
We
a
don't do
couple
it,
Saturdays,
we don't do it at the library, so.
yeah. Okay.
No.
I just don't want them wandering through the building, so
Yes. And we're
if we
gonna
can block
we're gonna
off the
have-
stairs and.
We're gonna have it before, Josh is gonna put cones and stuff before the elevators, so literally they'll have access to the bathrooms if we need that. But just that hall, we're gonna put cones in front of the steps, so they can't go up the steps either, so
Okay.
we're literally just gonna have this little area, that
That's,
little area.
that's perfectly fine. Guess I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
John makes a motion, Randy? Second. Second, I'll make that unanimous, so.